This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. So fast to freedom. Just unite together. Kill everybody singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for February 21st, 2021. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You just click that little red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or recurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, joined alongside, as always, my co-host, Case Lowe. And Case, I think we might have it this week.
We might have it.
I think since February, I've been having production issues, but I feel good this week. I feel good. I'm not going to curse myself by going on a tangent about production equipment and then my audio sounding awful as I say that.
I really enjoyed getting that note last week. Normally, if we have a production issue, I get upset about it, not at you, but just upset that it doesn't go the way that I thought it would. But hearing back last week that as you were talking about the importance of quality production, that you yourself were having production issues made me laugh quite hard.
Yeah, a little bit of an Icarus moment for me, you know,
yes.
Too high, too close to the sky, and that paid off. But hey,
and then you got an ugly back tattoo to remember it.
You know, I try not to think about that Icarus that often, Case.
No, I just remember the first Chikara show after the shutdown. It was he and Eddie Kingston in the main event, and that match was so ungodly bad. And it's just it's why I can never take like the hardcore Eddie Kingston contingent too seriously. Because yes, he's absolutely doing the best work of his career in AEW. But people either pretend that he was good or neglect the fact that he was actively a terrible wrestler for the entire 2010s almost, minus a handful of matches here and there. And whatever excitement I had about Chikara returning was quickly evaporated after that match, and then it entirely disappeared once they did the Chicago shows. This is an early, a long time Voices of Wrestling flagship. Listeners might remember the Rich Craich review of those shows where they were playing Duck Duck Goose or Rock Paper Scissors or whatever they were doing, and that was pretty much the end of Chikara being a relevant entity outside of King of Trios, and that is what I think of when I think of Icarus.
Yeah, it is something that I was someone who was Chikara pilled at that time. Like not that deep into it, Case. Like we've gone through my Chikara history.
You weren't doing any scavenger hunts, were you?
No ARGs, but like it was something that the shutdown killed it for me. But it was like the King of Trios weekends were always something that even afterwards, after the shutdowns, they tried to bring back that feeling. And as someone who was at King of Trios 2009, they never brought back that feeling.
No, the closest was the year with the Lucha Underground guys and the Bullet Club guys, and that's kind of it. You got the Phoenix, and I think it was like Phoenix, Pentagon, and Aerostar maybe versus AJ and the Bucks, and anything after that, I really have no recollection of.
And it also, I think it's fair to say when you look at like the students that came out after that, like, yep, everything tailed off as one would expect if you look at the shows that were leading up to that.
I still have so much Mr. Touchdown stock. And we talked about this. I mean, we talked about this 3 years ago on the Dragongate USA series because Mr. Touchdown starts popping up towards the very end of that run. He just should have been a big star, and he wasn't, and it will never sit right with me in the same way that, you know, Jigsaw should be a big star, and he wasn't because he got trapped into that Chikara universe. It's a real shame.
Mr. Touchdown should be a good-looking guy right now. Let's be honest.
Can you imagine Pro Wrestling Noah Mitsuharu Masawa's brand, and it's Mr. Touchdown and the retrosexual?
Yes, very much can, because I did spend 6 hours watching the Dome show. So yes, I could very easily imagine that case.
Did you watch that entire show?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god.
I was doing other things, but like, you know, for the stuff that immediately matters to me, I paid attention to it, but then I would have like flipped back and forth. I mean, there's only so much Suwama I can take, even though up until the first half of the main event, the Suwama was my favorite match on that show. So yeah, but that's also because I think that Kento Miyahara needs to take everyone affiliated with Kensuke's office's head off now.
Yeah, I am going to go back. I'm going to watch the Nakajima Miyahara match. I'm going to watch Okada versus Kiyomiya. And I guess the Hiromu match as well. The only thing I saw was the Z-Brats versus Noah match.
Yeah, should we just touch on the Dragongate participation of this here before we get into Rey de Parejas?
Yeah, please.
So today, February 21st was, I'm not going to get the full name off the top of my head, but let's see what I can do this. Keiji Muto Grand Final Pro Wrestling Last Love Holdout.
You got it.
There we go. Which had significant Dragongate precipitation, or even just...
It was raining Dragongate guys in the Tokyo Dome, let me tell you.
Yeah, so, of course, like we mentioned, Z-Brats versus Noah was one of the matches alongside the participation of Ada in the opener. Did you see the opener?
No, I like I said, I only saw the Z-Brats match.
Yeah, this is a man who could have the world in the palm of his hands, and not interested in it. Got brand new gear for Stinger, or whatever Stinger is going to become, and showed a lot more life. I mean, it's Eita, he's great, but it's just one of those things that, like, I watch that in that performance, and me watching this show primarily as a Dragongate fan to see the Dragongate stuff, and then, you know, this is like the last major retirement show until probably Tanahashi's, so you have to soak it in there, and just like having a feeling of being incredibly annoyed as a Dragongate fan watching that match.
It's interesting now that we enter obviously a post Peros universe and a post seemingly Nozawa universe. You just have to wonder what Eita specifically is getting out of wrestling in Noah. You know, for Masaki Mochizuki, he gets to wrestle some legends, he gets some big singles matches. I at least understand that, but with Eita, is wrestling Hayata, is wrestling Chris Ridgway, with all due respect to those guys, you know, is that the future that you want? Because, you know, you and I have talked about this a handful of times now. We mentioned it on the first show we recorded in February when we reviewed the Cork and Hall show of just, you know, 3 years later, crowds return, Eita's still the most over guy, or one of the 3 most over guys on these Dragongate shows, and he doesn't get that reception in Noah, and his closest ally in Noah's no longer there. You know, with what we know about his background and his love for Mexico and his love for Paraguayo Jr., the branding that brought him to Noah's gone. And now is the time where, in the same way that I think New Japan had a very serious conversation with Kota Ibushi a few years ago and said, you know, this is what we want from you. You've had your fun. Now it's time to do business. I really wish Eita would be propositioned in a similar way. And if he chooses not to dedicate himself full-time to Dragongate, I hope he goes to Mexico. You know, I would much rather watch Eita in IWRG or Big Lucha than I would him and Noah at this point, just because of my thoughts on the Noah Jr. division. It's incredibly frustrating thinking that we could lose a year of greatness out of this guy because he's splitting time with Noah.
And it's something of when we talk about Mochi, is that Mochi is based in Tokyo. He's a Tokyo resident. So for like during COVID also, I would say, case, it was something that people there were a lot of shows that it was just the Kobe-based contingent or the people who traveled, so it made a lot of sense for Mochi to do that. Whereas with Eita in this world, I just wonder if he's just bored with Dragon Gate. I mean, like if he appears and just is appearing on the shows as we expect, that's okay. But you go and you see things where actually it looks like he's enthused, at least the impression that he's enthused, and it's just annoying. It's annoying. Like that's the only way I could really put it. And then Z-Brats versus Noah. Everyone's probably seen the GIF as of the time of recording, just because the information might be coming. It's 7:14 Central Standard Time. No news on Diamante, who certainly looked like he had some sort of wrist or elbow injury coming off of a insane monkey flip 450 splash that he did in the early moments of the match against the Noah guys. Case, we were talking about this. Both of us are familiar enough of action sports that immediately when that happened, I think our thoughts both went to the same place, right?
It's not good. I mean, there's no way that's the reaction to a spot that ends with anything positive. You know, I thought we narrowly escaped danger. You know, he missed most of January with a shoulder injury or a knee injury, and he comes back and all right, power's restored in the universe. Diamante is going to have a huge 2023, and now we get this, and I don't see any way he doesn't miss an extended period of time. We're talking maybe not Kobe World, just based off the way this injury looked.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, it's a severe sprain, right? Like straight up, like his elbow went in and his wrist went down, and that was the reason why Mama Spears always insisted that I wore wrist guards whenever I rollerbladed. I mean, straight up, that's why.
Yeah, it could have been good, and it's such a bummer because, you know, you and I always talk about the fear of Diamante getting seen by more people, and with the way that match was going, it felt like Diamante was primed for a big finishing stretch. You know, he and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. I thought had very nice chemistry. I think they were going to be given another sequence towards the end of the match where they could have really had a big spot to shine, and he did not get that. And I don't know about you, Mike, but this match actually got the reaction that I was expecting it to get, which is no reaction whatsoever. It reminded me of that M2K match that took place in Budokan in 2002 All Japan. I'm looking at the card right now. Mm-hmm. Dragon Kid, Jimmy Yang, and Masaki Mochizuki versus Darkness Dragon, Magnum Tokyo, and Susumu Yokosuka. And that match is a good match that dies a death in that building. And I thought this was very similar.
Yeah, and like the shame was that monkey flip 450 did get a reaction.
Yeah.
Like that was the first thing from the Dragon Gate guys that did get a reaction. And it's frustrating. It feels like I have to imagine that there might have been some sort of audible, like Kai dropping that fall. Like I feel like something was going to be set up with that match they had to kind of audible out of. And yet again, I'm left with a feeling of annoyance. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is like one of those shows that I'm glad that I devoted the time to mostly pay attention to. But if I'm having to look at it from a critical Dragon Gate eye, I can't look at it as something that was beneficial unless suddenly everyone brought back a giant Samsonite from Tokyo.
I am still of the belief I would have been more annoyed had they been left off of this show. Is it worth a 6-month Diamante injury? No, it's not. But we didn't know that going in. We couldn't have expected that. I would have been far more annoyed had they not gotten a chance to be showcased on the show, given, you know, what DDT had and what Tokyo Joshi Pro had. I mean, I wish, quite frankly, I wish the Dragongate guys would have got the similar setup that the DDT guys got. Now, Dragongate was running a show across the country today. They couldn't have done that, but I wish we would have had a 6 or 8 man tag of Z-Brats versus Natural Vibes or Z-Brats versus D-Courage instead of Dragongate versus Noah.
Right. Yeah. But also I think that like that would have been the ideal scenario, but you look at those offer matches, those are cyber fight promotions. And then All Japan went straight against Noah and Congo. And we see what the deal was for the promotions that were brought in, that they basically brought in for a loss versus Noah and the rest of the card. And the fact that there's 30,000 people there for some portion, and who they were there for. The hands played out exactly as you expected.
No, I think the two spots of the match that got a reaction were the Diamante injury spot, and then early on when Ninja Mac goes for a dive and Shun Skywalker breaks it up. That got a ton of heat. And other than that, I mean, any big Shun Skywalker offensive spot, I just didn't get anything at all.
Yeah. So, but it's exposure. At the end of the day, you as you said, you'd rather have them on the show than not on the show, and at the end of the day, can't disagree with that whatsoever.
How can we get the Dragongate guys away from Ninja Mac? And I almost feel bad saying that, but we've had a lot of Noah Dragongate over the last 6 months, and it's all involved Ninja Mac, and I am just not into it.
Is he like sliding money to say like, hey, I want to be the one here? Like,
well, I don't.
Yeah.
When Ninja Mac first toured Noah, I asked some questions, and I never got a definitive answer. Look, more power to him. He's found himself, consistent work. He seems to be over with that crowd. I don't totally get it, but good for him.
For sure. And
can I also say, can we dive into the cage match archives really early, really quick in this show?
Brother, we're 15 in. We got to do it this week, because after this, we're going to be talking nonstop Rey de Parejas.
That All Japan show that I referenced, the Royal Road 30th, I don't, the cage match name is odd, but it's All Japan August 31st, 2002. There's the Dragon Kid Jimmy Yang, Masaki Mochizuki versus Darkness Dragon, Magnum Tokyo, and Susumu Yokosuka match. That is sandwiched in between. The match that comes before it is Abdullah the Butcher and Kendo Kashin versus Mitsuya Nagai and Yoji Anjo. And the match that comes after it is Chronic of Brian Adams and Brian Clark versus Tomoaki Hanma and Yuto Ajima. That is truly insane.
I love it. We got some early Turmeric Storm, if I'm right, against Chronic. That's, yeah. And then Nagai, oh God. 2002 All Japan was a wild trip. I think that was like a 30th anniversary tour show, and that was the confusion there, Case.
Yeah. Bill Goldberg versus Taiyo Kia, semi-main event.
I wonder what Taiyo Kia is up to, because I know when he retired and he said he went back to college. He's someone that I kind of wonder what's up with him.
I like that if you go to his cage match, his listed promotion is Odu, which was the Akibono promotion. That cage match has listed 3 shows. I don't remember them running a show, but cage match has 3 down.
Yeah, but I think after those 3...
I remember this because their debut show had Pentagon versus Phoenix in Cork and Hall.
Right, yeah, because Mrs. Baba was the money behind it, if I was right.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, because this was during that time period where Mrs. Baba asked back the original Triple Crown.
Wow, okay, all right.
Yeah, if my memory is right. I could be entirely wrong here. I watched 6 hours of the Dome show, including Keiji Muto's greatest trick.
I can't imagine being a pro wrestling Noah fan, but more power to those people.
Gosh, I mean, even if you're a Naito fan, you have a reason to be a little bit curmudgeon-y. I mean,
Tetsuya Naito fans have a reason to complain?
A legit one for once.
Oh wow, interesting.
I mean, your guy is idol. You have the retirement match against him, and then he immediately decides less than 3 minutes later, hey, my old dojo mate didn't get a retirement match, so let's do another one right now.
Fantastic.
What a worker. To the end.
What a worker.
And Case, what was a lot of work that we had this week for the Dragongate guys?
Rey de Parejas, my friend.
That's right, Rey de Parejas. They had 5 shows in 4 days. A lot of tag team wrestling. Just, I guess, off the top, Case, how are you feeling about the tournament as we go into the last week?
I'm feeling good. I left one of these shows very annoyed, and I think my tone for this podcast could have been very different had I not gotten the chance to watch Jason and Jackie versus Kikuta and Yoshioka, which we'll get to. Before we talk about these 2 shows in Fukuoka and the, I think, 4 YouTube matches that we watched, a bunch of free content from this tournament, obviously up on the Dragongate YouTube channel. Mike, I'm going to go team by team here. We'll go A block first and then B block. I'm going to throw this at you right now, impromptu. You tell me delivered, over-delivered, or under-delivered so far in this tournament. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, great idea. Let's do it. I'm here for it.
All right, A block, the leader right now in the A block, tied for first place as of February 21st. BB Hulk and Coach Minoura, they have 5 points. Mike, delivered, over-delivered, under-delivered.
I would say over-delivered, if only for the fact that we got to see Dragon Dia be put into new shapes because of this tag team. And Hulk has been a lot of fun with Minoura. I would say that I think this tag team has over-delivered. Case, how about you?
I think it's over-delivered because of the Cork and Hall match alone versus Kikuta and Yoshioka. I did not think they would be able to have a match that good. I did not think they'd be able to hit those heights. That is still my match of the tournament. There is an argument to be made that maybe they also had the weakest match of the tournament. I thought them versus the Mochizukis on one of the house shows was a 3-star special, very pedestrian match. But I didn't expect them to be the clubhouse leader for match quality, at least in terms of peak. So I've got to go slight over-deliver on BB Hulk and Coach Minoura.
That's fair. Who's next?
Jason, Lee, Jacky, Funky, Kamei, they are tied atop the A block right now, also with 5 points. Delivered, over-delivered, under-delivered.
I would say delivered because I already had high expectations about Kung Fu Masters. And they actually, I'll say this case, they have my new match of the tournament, which was them versus Courage Ass.
Are we sticking with Courage Ass as the official name for that tag team?
I mean, I feel like that most of these tag teams have like natural ones, like Double Dragon, Mina Hulk, like stuff like this, all caps, things that make sense. And I don't know what else you can apply to Yuki and Madoka. Like Courage Ass is the only thing there, other if you want to call them D-Courage.
I like that a lot. One of my least favorite things is in WWE when two guys start teaming with one another and it becomes like Sheamus and Randy Orton is like RK Brogue. That drives me absolutely insane for some reason. There's been a bunch, Miz show, Jera show. There's just a ton of those.
Show was good. Jera show was good.
That really bugs me for some reason. I never like those. But Courage Ass, is that the name we're going with?
Do you have one better?
No.
Courage Ass it is.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They delivered because they've been outstanding, and I expected, nothing less. Anything other than just bona fide greatness would have been a disappointment for them. Luckily, they have hit that threshold. In third place right now in the A block, 4 points. Masaki Mochizuki Jr., the Mochizukis. Where are you at with these guys?
I find that they have the most interesting tournament to date. And some of that makes it a little underwhelming because they have been the ones that you have to find some way to put away Junior or else you're not going to win. They have 2 time limit draws through this point. Not what I was expecting about for this tournament as we came into it. So with the fact that they had these draws that only recently they've paid off the draws in this Courage Ass versus Kung Fu Masters match. So the Mochizukis, I would say, delivered, trending towards under-delivered, but it's all storyline stuff that makes sense.
So they've had 3 tournament matches so far. By my calculations, let me just make sure I've got this right here. They've got 1 left? No, they've got to have 2 left, right? How many teams are... No, they've got 1 left. They've got Yoshioka and Kikuta on February 26th. So 3 matches in. You've got the Nagano Kato match, which we're going to talk a lot about, which I thought was excellent. The Jason and Jacky match, which I thought was excellent. And then the Hyo and Ishin match, which I almost went notebook on. It's for some reason, their tournament is not sticking in my mind. But they've had 3 great matches. I have to say over-delivered. They've been better than I thought they would be.
I think that's fair because the time limit draws have served the purpose for them and hasn't detracted from their work. Like they're the tag team that when I could tell that's going to go time limit or if I'm spoiled, I'm not like gritting my teeth a little bit. I feel like that they've hit their marks perfectly. So I guess I would say yeah, delivered to over delivered. You've sold me a little bit more on them.
What about the team that is the youngest in the tournament, the team of Yoshiki Kato and Kaito Nagano, currently 3 points in the A block?
You mean rookie tag?
Rookie there, Mike Spears on fire tonight.
I mean, it's because I only have so much space on my notebook pages. Rookie tag, I would know immediately that it's Kato and Nagano. I think they've over-delivered. I think that they have been excellent, especially given the amount of ring time that they had to this point. And it really is something that Kato, he's smoothing out the edges, but not so much that he's losing who he is. And I think that's pretty important. And Nagano, he's finally got his flash pin down, so that's a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, this is an over-delivered team just because they're not having the proto young boy matches. They're just going out. They're having legitimately great matches, and they're having it in the style of a Dragongate match, and that is something that I did not expect. I thought they would lose all of their matches. I thought they would still be really basic structure. Nagano takes the heat. Kato comes back, and then in the end, Nagano gets pinned. Mike, if you parachuted into this tournament, you said, I've heard K-Slow and Mike Spears on the Open the Voice Gate podcast. I've heard them talk about Dragongate, or maybe I just became aware of Dragongate, rather. Let's use that as the analogy. You know, I'm listening to Voices of Wrestling. They're telling me about this promotion. I want to check it out. Would you have any idea that Yoshiki Kato and Kaito Nagano are rookies, and that Kato specifically is 3 months into his career?
Oh, absolutely not. And I think that's something that we've seen within these rookies pretty much since the Future project has begun, with one notable exception. They are so composed that they don't ever feel like that they are out of place or that they are too much like showing their greenness, for lack of better terms.
No, look, they've got my second best match of the tournament that happened in Fukuoka. We'll talk about it. I mean, my mind was blown at just how competent they looked in the ring with, you know, another 20, 21-year-old, and then obviously Masaki Mochizuki. What they're doing is incredibly impressive. These guys, we've touted them since their debuts. We knew they were going to be good. I feel like they're a little ahead of schedule of where I thought they would be, because again, the style of match that they're having is not, it's not even like what Fujiwara was having before he left. You know, Fujiwara, obviously a prodigy, I think the world of him, still had some pretty bare bones matches, you know, young boy style matches. Kato and Nagano just look like pro wrestlers. So what they're doing at this stage in their career is absolutely remarkable.
It's composure. It's composure, and it's something that sometimes we have seen, like the rookie moments, and bring up Fujiwara is a good point, because Fujiwara only really blossomed when the calendar year changed, right? Whereas Nagano and Kato really have shown like no real big missteps. I know I get on Nagano's flash pin, but it doesn't faze him, you know? It's something that's like, okay, good and next there. Whereas I've seen more than enough rookies and people who've been around wrestling long enough completely fall apart when that happens.
Yeah, no, there's just a level of poise with both these guys. I mean, obviously Kato's going to be the one that people look at, that people hype up, the one that has the greater, higher potential. Nagano's a special talent. I mean, we've really got to start looking at him. You know, 6 months into his career, debuted last August. They did it again. It's what they did with SB Kento and with Fujiwara and to some degree with Mochizuki Jr. And Nagano's just one of these guys. He's going to keep the wheels turning. He's going to continue this effortless onslaught of young wrestlers succeeding at a high level. He's already doing it. He's only going to continue to do it. It's really remarkable.
It's something also with Nagano that is really kind of fun to see, is he is a charismatic guy. He has a certain thing about him, and seeing that blossom like outside the ring and inside, and how it plays with the soccer enthusiast gimmick to just like him doing mic segments with D-Courage on house shows. That is an aspect to him that just pays off, and it's showing a level of comfort that, I mean, case for God, 7 years. We've talked about rookies and like how important it is to be able to be charismatic and talking on the microphone. This guy's already got that.
Completely. No, look. I mean, Kato's got merch. Nagano's got promo skills. They're doing everything they can to do to succeed, and that's why we're seeing them being treated like this with 3 points in the tournament and not 0.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they are not getting the wooden spoon this year, and that is an achievement, but it also plays really well into who is going to be the team that's going to go over.
Let's talk about Hyo and Ishin real quick. Over deliver, under deliver, delivered here.
I mean, they're the heel team in the block, and with the way that they work these tournaments and these matches, there's going to be some sleaze and some scumminess about it. I still stand by what I said last week, that some of the true delights of watching the house shows and having this is getting to see Ishin work these shows and kind of figure himself out in more ways. And I've enjoyed that. Hyo is Hyo, you know, so like they've fulfilled their role to how I expected. So I have to say delivered.
I'm going to go under deliver here. I'm pretty unsatisfied with their tournament outside of the Mochizuki's match in Corkin Hall. Thought they had a bad weekend in Fukuoka. Just wasn't into what they were doing, and you know they're gonna have 2 more matches. They're gonna have Jason and Jacky on February 23rd, and they're gonna have BB Hulk and Coach Minoura and Kobe on February 26th. That's gonna be the last block match. It's going to be 2 opportunities to have great matches. You know, if they can't do something that I find to be worthwhile versus Jason and Jacky, I think we're really going to have a larger discussion on Hyo, and I'm already prepared to have that. And Hulk and Minoura, I'm sure that'll be a storyline-driven match, obviously, with that could decide the block. They've got the history with BB Hulk. There's going to be a lot there. But I need that to have some sort of edge to it, because right now, I think Hyo and Ishin are falling flat.
Yeah, but did you expect Hyo to have this crazy work rate tournament, though?
Well, okay, that's kind of where I'm at with Hyo. Am I expecting him to have the same output of a Jason Lee or a Jackie Funky Kamei or a Madoka Kikuta? No, I'm not. Even if you look within his unit, I don't expect him to do what Shun is doing or what Kai is doing or what Diamante would be doing if he was healthy, even what Ishin is doing. I supported Hyo pretty vocally throughout his Bravegate run, even though none of those matches were great from a work rate standpoint, because I believe the Bravegate belt is at its best when it has some character to it, and Hyo was making those matches his own. The problem is that we're now in this work rate tag team tournament where you've got Jason and Jacky and the Mochizukis and Yamadoi and Shun and Kai, all these teams running laps around one another, just trying to have the best match possible. And now Hyo's starting to stick out, and he's very much teetering on the brink of becoming this generation's Gamma or this generation's Cyber Kong, or in specifically this time and place, I don't want to put him down too much, but like a 2014 Punch Tamanaga, where he's this heel and we can point to how effective he is, and he gets heat and he's this and he's that, but he can't deliver in the ring. And I'm starting to get gravely concerned that we're not getting the great Hyo match, that it didn't happen in the Bravegate run. It hasn't happened here. I don't know when it's happening. At some point it has to happen, or else he becomes Gamma, and I don't want that for him.
I guess, and I know that Hyo out of that class was my guy. I guess that like I always kind of pegged him more as a character guy, and maybe I figured the work would come, and the work has been there at times. It's just not consistent. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has a 5-star rating. It has had a 5-star match. You know, like it's not like he's completely bereft. Like that's why I feel like pushing back on like Punch Tominaga or like Gamma. Like I don't feel the same way, and that might be my personal bias, to be fair. But I don't know if I'm ready to sell that stock yet.
It's becoming a trend where I'm ready for him. I've seen the character work. I get it. It's great. Body guy. Heard it. Got it. Love it. Have a great match. Do that for me. The working standard in Dragongate is higher than anywhere else. You can do all the character stuff. You can look great. I get it. Have a great match. He hasn't had that great match in a while, and it's starting to be the all-consuming thing when I watch him wrestle.
Yeah, but the problem with that is like the character stuff is what got him over. So it's like if he wanted to focus on like work rate too, it's just like how is he going to achieve that balance with the great brain? And I don't know if he can completely do that, but I do like in a promotion where he was at times as a rookie in the Rio Fuda category. What's going to be the thing that like takes him to that next step? And you know, he's a known quantity now. I mean, he's approaching 7 years as a pro wrestler. I feel like this is kind of who he is.
I thought he stunk up the joint, him and Ishin versus Kikuta and Yoshioka in Fukuoka over the weekend. I thought that was the weakest match of the tournament because it was a match that I actively disliked. It was the one time limit draw that hasn't connected with me. It's the bit of character work that I didn't like. It was a match that I kind of thought was lousy. It was 20 minutes of subpar wrestling. And given what I've seen Kikuta do, given what I've seen Yoshioka do, given what I know Ishin can do, I got to point the finger somewhere. And the finger's being pointed at Hyo. That was a Hyo match. A very specific pacing, very specific structure, very specific tone, did not land with me at all.
Yeah, and I mean, when we start breaking down the matches, there is discussion to be had overall about the time limit draws. And because that was the one where everyone kind of goes like, all right, these time limit draws, we get it. It's a block tournament, but they were doing a lot of them. And it happened on that match, I feel, universally.
Final team here, last place as we record February 21st in the A block. 2 points, Madoka Kikuta, Yuki Yoshioka. Mike, where do you stand with these guys?
Courage Ass have been fun. They're part of my favorite match of the tournament so far, but Yoshioka taking falls has been something that I have not necessarily been a big fan of. So a bit under-delivering, if only for this is how Yoshioka is coming back to earth like this. I feel like Kikuta should take the falls over Yoshioka, but we're still seeing Kikuta still having the Shingo Takagi imprint on him, and that has been fun. So I guess it averages out to delivering.
Yeah, I'm not with you there on the Yoshioka thing. I'm glad he's taking these falls. Heat Kikuta up. Again, to me, it's Kikuta versus Shoot It Dead or Alive. That's the match you have to do. I don't want Kikuta taking any falls. I only want him getting hotter. Yoshioka just had his moment in the sun. He will have it again. Let him get beat. Not bothered at all by him getting pinned.
Yeah, maybe it's just something that I think I have like a reaction to when young guys get like that big solidifying Dreamgate run and then the pullback. I think I'm more sensitive to the pullback than you are.
Possibly. So as we look at the A block, like I said, BB Hulk and Coach Minoura 5 points, Jason Lee and Jacky Funky Kamei 5 points, the Mochizuki's 4 points, Yoshiki Kato and Kaito Nagano 3 points, Hyo and Ishin 3 points, and Madoka Kikuta and Yuki Yoshioka 2 points. Looking ahead, there's 4 block matches remaining in this tournament. 2 are going to take place on February 23rd with Yuki Yoshioka and Madoka Kikuta versus Yoshiki Kato and Kaito Nagano, and Jason Lee and Jacky Funky Kamei versus Hyo and Ishin. And then the block will finish out February 26th in Kobe with BB Hulk and Kota Minoura versus Hyo and Ishin, and Yuki Yoshioka and Madoka Kikuta versus the Mochizukis.
Yeah, I think that rookie tag versus D-Courage match will be real fascinating to see how Kato really is positioned.
Do you think there's a shot that he pins Yoshioka?
A slim shot, but I can't discount it.
But you would say D-Courage are still the favorites in that match.
Oh, heavy betting favorites, but there's a puncher's chance, whereas any other match with a team in the B block, there's zero chance whatsoever, as we've been saying the entire time.
I think Yoshioka and Kikuta are going to win out. They win those last 2 matches, they can get to 6 points. I think Hyo and Ishin will beat Jason and Jacky. That'll bring them up to 5. And then you will have the block deciding match between Minoura and Hulk versus Hyo and Ishin. And I think at that point, we will see Hyo and Ishin advance. So we'll have some combination of Cork and Hall. I don't know how they're doing it in terms of the semifinals and the finals, but I would expect Hyo and Ishin and Yoshioka and Kikuta to move on from this block.
Yeah, if they're doing 4, then I think that those are if we're doing like a semifinals, I feel like that those are the two to expect
Yeah,
for
they're
that.
doing a semifinals in Corkin, but I don't know if it's first place from A block and second place from B block, or if they're doing A block versus A block. I don't know what the plan is there.
Yeah, I would expect to be 1 versus 2.
Yeah, so that's where we're at there. Look, I've enjoyed this tournament a ton. I think the larger wrestling media is missing out by not talking about this tournament, because you're getting a ton of great matches, and you're getting a ton of great matches that are all a little bit different. You know, what Kato and Nagano bring to the table is different from Hulk and Minoru. It's different from Jason and Jacky. It's different from Kikuta and Yoshioka. I have largely loved this tournament, and part of that is the strong work of the B block if you're ready to get into those guys as well.
Yeah, no, I'm ready for the B block.
The leader right now, 6 points. They're tied for first place. Open the Dreamgate champion Shun Skywalker and Kai. Deliver, over-deliver, under-deliver.
I feel like that they've over-delivered a little bit, because I guess maybe I'm viewing them in concert with the other Z-Brats team, but this one, I mean, they're dismantling people. It's been fun, and it does not feel like that they've really have wasted Dreamgate champion and Kai in this. Like they feel the way that they should feel, and their matches have held up, I felt like.
Yeah, I thought the Benkei Minarita match kicked ass. I thought they were very serviceable against the M3K Mochizuki Kanda team, and I really like them versus the Dragons. They are delivering. They have not been outstanding, but I do think they've been very good. That's what I expect from Shun and Kai. Tied for them in first place right now. We record this February 21st. Second place, first place, tied for first place in the B block. Susumu Mochizuki and Yasushi Kanda, 6 points for them. Mike, what do you think about their tournament so far?
I feel underwhelmed. I feel like they've underdelivered in a way, because maybe it is that I feel like that a lot of their matches have already happened, and I've watched a lot of it, and I like Yasushi Kanda, but it's been a lot of Kanda for my taste for 2023.
Yeah, they've got one match left that we will get to, but you're right. You know, we've seen 4 of these matches so far from these guys: the Strong Machines match in Corkin, the Dragons match in Okayama, the Z-Brats match in Fukuoka on the house show, and then the Gold Class Benkei and Minarita match in Across Fukuoka. And they've all been fine. They've all been fine. They've actually delivered, just because I didn't have high expectations for these guys to begin with. This is about what I expected from them.
Yeah, it's something that it's nice having them in this block and having the original tag team there. It is something that maybe it was my expectations of, okay, Susumu Yokosuka, one of the 3 best tag team wrestlers in Dragon System history, being in a tag team tournament again, not reflecting the fact that it also has Yasushi Kanda, and the fact that now these are guys a couple of years older than the last time we saw a Susumu tag team.
Very much so. Now, after them, this is where you start to get into more names that have a shot of winning. 4 points right now: Dragon Dia, Dragon Kid, the Dragons. What do you think about their tournament?
Their tournament has been fun and surprising. It is something where the tag team chemistry sometimes shows up, sometimes it's not there, but then you get like random stuff. Like, I can't remember until this week, Case, the last time that I saw Dragon Kid win with a Cristo submission. Like, can you remember off the top of your head last time you saw that?
No, I certainly can't.
So for like that, I like those little quirks here. I've enjoyed the fact that we got like the Lee's wings in this. I like that kind of aspect of the tournament. So I'm saying delivered, but I guess the one thing about under-delivering, I thought Dragon Kid would have joined D-Courage by now. Maybe that's a Corkin thing.
Well, yeah, I don't think they need to get to it in the tag team tournament. That gives them, you know, something to play off of in March and into April and into Dead or Alive as hometown show, where they can probably have a Dragongate championship match there. There's no reason to burn that angle in Fukuoka when they can do it at a later time, and I don't think it'll change the impact of it.
No, that's fair. I will say Dia probably gets like the hard Scrabble guy of the tournament, though. I mean, going from a match with Shun, where Shun lands on him pretty hard with the knee salt, where he was bandaged up the next day, to the fact that the match before that, Kodama and Nora decided to make him into an equal sign.
Dragon Dia is really good at getting his ass kicked, to a point that it's almost concerning, because this is a guy who's battled health issues in the past, and it's just, you're right, it seems like he has taken a G1 level beating in this tournament.
Yeah, I wouldn't, with his collarbone issues, be taking that straight onto my shoulders, but I'm not a pro wrestler.
If you have not seen the Brainbuster we're talking about, Joe Gagne's Twitter account, he uploaded it. Disgusting Brainbuster from Kota Minoura onto Dragon Dia. A team, by the way, that's disgustingly good. 3 points right now in the B block. Yamato and Naruki Doi. Yamadoi, where are you at with them?
We only have had 2 matches of theirs, and they've been great. I mean, do we think Yamadoi has over-delivered or invigorated Naruki Doi showing up here? Like, that's what we're talking about with this.
I have to say over-delivered, because their Cork and Hall performance blew me away. I didn't think I was going to miss them that much. I didn't think they'd be that good. And they were great there, and I went notebook on the Strong Machines match as well. So I'm 4 stars for both their matches so far.
Yeah, so I guess it's an over-deliver for me as well.
I had high expectations, but they've blown me away. What about the Strong Machines?
I mean, they've been fun, but they've been exactly what I expected. I mean, other than maybe that one match against Yamadoi, like, if we're counting that in it, then yeah, slightly over-delivered, but what are we to expect when we have the Strong Machine Army around nowadays? Precisely this.
I've enjoyed their work. I've had a good time with them. I really wish we would have got on YouTube the Strong Machine J Yoshiki Kato singles match from today. That went 12 minutes. I'm really curious to see what that match looked like. But nevertheless, that one is gone into the ether. I've delivered there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, hey, if we have any listeners in Kagoshima who are there live, if you're somehow one of those listeners, let us know. Let us know how that is, because 12 minutes for Yoshiki Kato is fascinating for me.
Look, it's a hotbed for us. You pull up the red circle statistics. It's Chicago, it's New York, it's LA, it's Kagoshima. Those are the big markets.
That's the loop, baby.
that's what Hogan used to talk about, was running 300 days a year in those markets. So Strong Machines 3 points. They're tied with Yamadoi. Last place in the B block. 0 points right now. Ben K and Minorita. Give me your over-delivered, under-delivered, delivered, and then I've got a follow-up question for you about these guys.
Perfect in every way, over-deliver.
And that's your unbiased opinion, of course.
Hey, I knew exactly what this tag team was going to be in this tournament, and I've enjoyed these matches much more than I expected for Minorita squash matches, essentially.
Are we concerned that Minorita is the Open the Brave champion and he keeps on getting beat like a drum?
No, because I feel like he's going to get a couple, by the skin of his teeth, defenses. Maybe 1, maybe 0. But and it's going to be fine at the end of the day. I feel like it's something where a legit argument can be made that Ben K is not holding up his end of the deal in this tag team.
I don't know. Their matches, it's weird. I really liked what they did against Shun and Kai, but as I look through the rest of their matches, they're almost done here. They've wrestled the Dragons, they've wrestled Shun and Kai, they've wrestled the Strong Machines, they've wrestled M3K. Just not leaving an impression on me at all whatsoever. This is like the team that when you ask me a year from now, hey, who was in Rey de Parejas, I'm going to forget about these guys. Even though they've been entertaining from a character perspective, their matches have not stuck with me whatsoever.
I mean, the thing that's stuck with me is the one YouTube where Minorita tried to do his run around the ring thing, and he ran backstage, and Ishin beat the shit out of him.
What a phenomenal angle!
Which for me, that's why I went out of this tag team, and also Ben K in a tracksuit is exactly what I felt like when in 2019 and 2020 when I lived that tracksuit life. So.
That life, a dangerous life to live. Okay, let's we're going to spray to a lot of fields here. I'm happy with the way this is going. Before we talk about the B block standings and what's left to come, What is your temperature check right now? Your vibe check? Are you into Champion Gate in Osaka? It is 2 weeks away, and we know absolutely nothing. Are you concerned about this? Are you not concerned about this? Where are you at with Champion Gate?
I I am a little bit more nervous about it than I was this time last week. I was hoping that something would derive a championship challenge out of anything that's happened, and we've seen nothing other than the assumption that Big Time will defend the Twin Gate championship against whoever wins Rey de Parejas. That's basically the only direction we have.
So I ask this because I talked to somebody who's based in Japan this morning, and I asked them the same question. I said, "Hey, is it weird that the tag league is taking this much focus that we're just completely abandoning any Champion Gate build?" And this person came back to me and said, "Well, you got to remember, one, it's a marquee show. Champion Gate has some name value to it, and Champion Gate, and I think you would agree with this, Mike. Over the last 3 or 4 years, kind of 2019 onwards, Champion Gate has been great. Would you agree with that?"
It has been a format that has worked that very rarely has it been that there has not been at least 2 4-star matches each night. And you walk away going like, oh, hey, we have like crazy matches like Dragon Dia and Takuma Fujiwara or the 3-way Twin Gate match last year. And that's not to mention the Shimizu title challenge. So...
Yeah. The last, again, 2019 onwards is really when they nailed it. Because if you go back to 2018, it's headlined the first night. It's Punch versus Kanda for the Brave Gate belt. And then Jason, Yoshino, and Doi versus Flamita, Yamato, and Maria for the Triangle Gate on night 1. And then night 2 was the great Benkei Mochizuki Dream Gate match. But then the Twin Gate match was HNT Hawk versus Genki and Susumu. That was a pretty weak lineup. Anything after that, I think they've nailed. So that person brought up to me, hey, you got to remember, this is a show that people are into. And then also that they brought up the point that, look, Osaka, other than July of 2022, in the midst of the Coach Minoura hellscape, has never really wavered in attendance during the pandemic. They've kind of gone right in line with where they should. A little bit of growth everywhere from August of 2020 through now. You have goodwill built in, you have a good market built in, you have a good building built in, you have all of these things that are working in your favor. I personally am still going, God, they've got to be able to fill that building to some degree. They've been relatively consistent. The last 2 Champion Gates have done right around 500 fans. You certainly can't do less than that this year. You would like to do more given the lack of restrictions that are now in place. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get there or not. And the reason I bring that up is, yes, I think we're both assuming that Big Time is going to defend the Twin Gate championships on the second night of Champion Gate. And I think the draw this year is not going to be Shun Skywalker's first defense of the Dream Gate belt. I think an adequate, now this would not main event, this would be the semi-main event, but the adequate draw for this year's Champion Gate, I think, has to be Yamadoi versus Big Time.
Yeah, you really have to run that match now, especially given how Doi has been doing outside of Dragon Gate. I mean, I feel like we know where this is going to go with that. And that's also regarding the fact that Big R Shimizu is an Osaka City native. So having that match there with him on top, he should be able to draw with that at this point. I mean, that's why he had the Dreamgate shot last year.
Yeah, you've got Shimizu, that's his home market, and you've got the history of Yamato and KZ, and then you've got Doi, who's just doing everything right now. Have you watched either of the Doi matches from this past weekend, the title match in DDT or the title match in All Japan?
I have the All Japan match saved. I've not watched that one yet. Hey, I don't think Canon's very good, so...
Okay, that was good. My takeaway, was I watched... Yeah. So I have not seen the All Japan match yet, but I woke up early on Saturday morning. My girlfriend had some work to do. I'm sitting next to her in bed. I go, baby, you mind if I pull up the old Wrestle Universe real quick, knock this match out? I got a lot of wrestling to watch this weekend. She says, go for it, as, she sits there questioning her life. and I watched a pretty mediocre Doi versus Cannon match. And not to be the strike fetishist, but man, Cannon threw some lariats in that match that didn't look like they would hurt a pillow. I was super disappointed with his performance there. Doi did everything he could, but that was just not a very good match.
No. You see, Case, I had a similar conversation with a lady friend where it was, hey, I'm sorry, I can't go get pho with you and your dad. I have to go watch these shows from across Fukuoka.
Yeah, no, I was in a similar position. I had the Monday off of work because of President's Day, and she's in grad school, and she's got a late start on her Monday. She goes, "Oh, you want to get breakfast? You want to get lunch? You want to hang out on Monday after we had a lovely weekend together, Friday through Sunday? Saw Maggie Rogers, saw Vance Joy, very good weekend." And I kind of go, "Nah, I gotta take off early on Monday. I got some stuff to do. I got 2 Fukuoka shows to watch and a bunch of." And she, all right, I don't care. You're gonna leave me to go sit on your couch and watch wrestling. I don't care. Like, all right, that's fair. All right. So, anyways, Yamadoi has to be the answer here. Now, you look at the remaining B block matches, just to run down the standings one more time. Shun Skywalker and Kai, 6 points. Susumu Mochizuki and Yasushi Kanda, 6 points. The Dragons, Dragon Dia Dragon Kid, 4 points. Yamadoi, 3 points. Strong Machines, 3 points. And Benkei and Minorita, 0 points. The remaining matches. Big match on February 23rd, Yamadoi versus Shun Skywalker and Kai. February 25th, Yamadoi versus Benkei and Minorita. And then February 26th in Kobe, Yamadoi versus Susumu and Kanda, and the Strong Machines versus Shun and Kai. I think the blueprint here, I really think in the grand scheme of things, the Yamadoi versus Shun and Kai match is irrelevant, because all Yamato and Doi have to do after that, they beat Benkei and Minorita, and they beat Susumu and Kanda, and they are good to go. That's all they need to do. So that match is going to be great. Z-Brats versus Yamadoi. I don't think the result matters, because I still think Yamadoi is going to win the last 2 and be in that semifinal match.
Yeah, no, your logic makes sense to me. Like it seems set up pretty well.
Unless they really make me upset and rip the Band-Aid off and do Skywalker versus Kikuta in Osaka, which I think is just a monumental mistake. Is there any Dreamgate match that you can point to where you can go, yes, that's what they should do in Osaka, given the lack of build that's really happened?
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, that's why I was like watching the Dome. I was like expecting like, hey, is this going to be a good where Marufuji gets a pen and they just go run it? Like, that was the only thing that made sense to me. And that clearly did not happen. There was no exchange there. So I have no idea for the Dreamgate. There's been no indication whatsoever. No one's really been stepping up really to do that. And with the way that Shunkai have been booked, is there has not really been the opportunity for them someone to get a direct fall onto Shun to necessitate the Dreamgate match.
Yeah, I really thought they would build Shun versus Dragon Kid. That seemed like the perfect V1. It's Champion Game in Osaka, low stakes. Again, that building can fill itself with anything worthwhile. I guess maybe that's the direction they go. It's just I don't know how you can get out of Kobe and then a Cork and Hall show that's going to be dedicated to Rey de Parejas with the semifinals and the finals taking place on that show. I don't know how you can do that and still you need 3 title matches. You need a Triangle Gate match, a Brave Gate match, and a Dream Gate match. I don't know how they're going to get to any of those.
At least with Bravegate case, there's been enough people beating up Minorita.
That's true, but I don't know. It's very strange. The Triangle Gate match, I'm sure it'll be Ishin, Hyo, and Kai, and they'll do that or whatever. But it's all it's all very strange to me right now.
Yeah, nothing is really. I feel like leading into a big weekend 2 weeks away, we'd have at least like our North Star, and there's no North Star whatsoever. And that's weirdly enough an issue that happened with Summer Venture Tag League leading into Dangerous Gates.
What was the Dream Gate? Oh, it was Shimizu versus Kai, and we knew that in February, because February was the big build, and Shimizu was getting a bunch of flash pins on Kai. And then we would have known the Brave Gate match at Memorial Gate, which was this week of February last year. The Triangle Gate match, we had a good idea because that's when Gold Class Forum was in February, so we had a month build there. And then the Twin Gate match was the Eita Maria SB Kento Hyo D-Courage match, and that had a month build as well. That had a 2-month build. Last year, Champion Gate felt super hot because all these matches had a pretty lengthy build for Dragon Gate standards. This year, the shows might end up being great, but we're not going to have that buzz that we had for these shows last year.
Yeah, and I think we have to come to terms with that. Not that it's a bad thing. I mean, bringing back Rey de Parejas and having the opportunity to do this kind of thing, I would take having a meaningful January and February and a quick build to a doubleheader and Edion 2 for Champion Gate over meandering basically until after Champion Gate. And then it's like, okay, what are we kind of doing towards Memorial Gate into the build to Dead or Alive? Like, I'm okay if this is like, as a B show, it's treated more like a B show right now, if that makes sense. Even if that leaves us right now going, well, I have no clue what 3 out of the 4 title matches are going to be.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the tournament so much, so it's hard for me to complain, but it does put us in a weird position. Changing gears real quick, Mike, is your DVR set to the Reels channel? Because tonight at 10 p.m., Yamato is challenging Alexander Hammerstone for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship?
I don't even think I get Reels on YouTube TV, man. Let me look right now to see if I get Reels on YouTube TV. I don't think I get it.
MLW Underground tonight is Alexander Hammerstone versus Yamato. John Hennigan enters the Underground, which that's why would you advertise that? I don't want to watch him do anything. Sam Adonis versus Calvin Tankman, and the Billington Bulldogs versus the FBI. 2 out of the 4 ain't bad. I am into Adonis versus Tankman, and obviously into Hammerstone versus Yamato.
Yeah, Adonis and Tankman, that's a fun little match. That's where I know the world of MLW doesn't stop, you know?
No, they're on the goddamn Reels channel. The world never stops.
So I do not have the Reels channel, but I do have access to the Reels channel YouTube channel.
Thank God.
I know. I mean, what can I do without that? I guess I have to wait for the 3 weeks until it appears on whatever is Court Bauer's 5th distribution model.
Well, yeah, they're no longer airing MLW Fusion. I don't know where to watch MLW. That's as somebody that doesn't have cable. I don't know where to watch this promotion. I don't know what Pro Wrestling TV is. I want to go watch the Warrior Wrestling show because Cubs fan put over the main event, which is all the luchadors there. I don't know what this Pro Wrestling TV thing is.
I think this was what Change Your Narrative was on.
Okay.
And I think that tells us all we need to know about it.
Okay, all right.
I think NWA's on it as well. So yeah, it's that network. It's that streaming service case.
God, I've got an NWA scoop. This is not the podcast for that, but I've got an NWA scoop I'm sitting on. Exciting stuff. You know, when you're in Chicago, Billy Corgan's name travels fast. And you learn some stuff that really makes you nervous for the sake of that company's future.
Do you hear more gossip about Billy Corgan or Mancow?
I personally hear more gossip about Mancow just because I work with people who worked with him for decades. And so I have a lot of Mancow stories, and his name still comes up frequently. I will say, you know, in my shoot job, we did some business with, this sounded gross. I apologize. We did some business with the Smashing Pumpkins about 6 months ago, which is what happened, but that just sounds gross. I apologize. I've always loved the Pumpkins, but doing like a really intimate show with the Pumpkins and the show I worked on interviewed Billy, it all just, I'm so fascinated by him. And I know that's a bad, like, it's 2023, who gives a shit about Billy Corgan? But I've always loved their music. Siamese Dream is near perfection. Melancholy is too long. Adore is too long, but the high points on Adore are just marvelous. there's so much stuff that just now I'm really diving into about his psyche. I think he's such an interesting guy. But ultimately, for as much as I respect the fact that he devotes so much time, energy, and money into pro wrestling, he is just not good at it.
No, I mean, but Austin Idol is still a part of it, I guess.
I'll take your word for it. All right, well, I will look up what Pro Wrestling TV is. I'll figure that out. You figure out a way to watch Yamato versus Hammerstone, and let's quickly go through what we have not talked about on these Fukuoka shows.
All right, so Fukuoka. Should we talk about the Yukahashi show on the day before that first, as our co-host has been freaking out a lot?
Yeah. Let's go through that. So that would have been I can run down the matches we got there, or at least the Rey de Parejas matches we got there. This was on February 18th. This is on the Dragongate YouTube channel, and we got in the semi-main event B block match Kai and Shun Skywalker versus Susumu Mochizuki and Yasushi Kanda, and that was the only tournament match on this show.
And it was a brawling sleaze fest that was a distraction chair shot and then a knee salt on Kanda. I thought it was okay, 2 3/4.
Couldn't agree more, Mike. Now on to Across Fukuoka.
All right, Across Fukuoka was on the 19th. Both shows will be up on the network until the 26th. We opened up with Rey de Parejas, Benkei and Minorita, standing at 0 points versus Asumu, Mochizuki, and Zushi Kanda, who were staying at 4 points. The Yokosuka cutter on Minorita to win the match, moving Susumu and Kanda to 6, and Benrita is having the wooden spoon.
Yeah, look, I said my piece on this earlier. I think it's a little weird that a Bravegate contender and a man like Benkei continue to lose, but somebody's got to lose in this tournament, and in the B block, it's going to be those guys.
Yep, and then we get Ben carrying off Minorita each match. Next was a special singles match, Kagetora versus Eita. Eita won by an arm drag crucifix. I think I was a little bit lower on this than you. Kagetora is someone, and with Eita, it just was very hard for me to get into it to the level that it seems like you did. So sell me on this so I can go back and rewatch it with new eyes.
I don't even know if I can sell you on this, because I can't shake the fact that if Kagetora disappeared tomorrow, if he went to GLEAT, if he went to All Japan, if he went to DDT, if he retired, the world would keep moving. He feels so antiquated in 2023 Dragon Gate. Some people seem to look at that as a negative as they continue to shed all this old skin. To me, it's a positive. It's a blessing. It's the issue that Pro Wrestling Noah is going to have for the next 5 years. They leverage their entire future onto a 60-year-old guy. That 60-year-old guy is gone, and they have nothing to show for it. Kagetora is in his early 40s, and he feels like a dinosaur in this promotion. He's 40 years old, and he feels like an absolute dinosaur in the current state of Dragon Gate. I think that's a great problem to have. As for the match, I thought it was like a Prime Zone special. This was swanky grappling. This was Eita being interesting. This was Kagetora being as interesting as he can. Just big plus all around. Super fun undercard match.
It was something for me, at least. Like, I thought it was interesting how they were, like, as a Prime Zone match, this was kind of an interesting one. I didn't look at it in those eyes, and maybe that is why I came away with just 2.5 stars, and I like the Kaganui through it. But yeah, it's a fascinating exercise to see with Eita, how they have to book him to begin with, and then you have someone of Kagetora who, we'll talk about Kagetora's other appearance in a little bit.
Yeah, again, he could disappear tomorrow, and it wouldn't affect the promotion at all. And that's kind of all I can think about whenever I see him.
Non-tournament tag team match, Don Fuji and Giki Horiguchi, unaffiliated, versus Hyo and Kai. Hyo wins with a top rope senton on Genki. I thought that I really enjoyed the Don Fuji and Kai things. Don Fuji's having a moment, Case.
Don Fuji, in any other promotion, I think would be heralded as like a sneaky all-time great. He works in a promotion that's built on sneaky all-time greats. But you're kind of reminded here in a matches like this, and then obviously what he's done as Strong Machine F in this tournament. Just everything a pro wrestler should be is Don Fuji.
It is something that if this was not Dragongate, Don Fuji would be such a Segunda Keita favorite.
Oh my God, yes.
He is just such a fun character to watch, and seeing him with Kai and the way they kind of interact with this, and this was something that for across Fukuoka, this is their first noise. This is the first noise crowd since, I think right after Hakata Star Lanes closed. No, there was 8 months.
They had a full year basically of across Fukuoka. So the last time they ran here before the pandemic, let's take a quick look at attendances here. So they did February 20th of 2020. Obviously the doubleheader here, 469 for the day show and 603 for the night show. This weekend, the day show did 383, and then the night show did a super no vacancy full house of 451. So at times they've been able to put more in the building, but given the current structure, that was considered a full house, and they sold every ticket they could.
Yeah, and it was something that I felt like the crowd, one of my big problems was this wasn't that with across Fukuoka, they replaced one of my favorite venues of all of wrestling. Hakata Star Lanes, one of the most molten venues possible because of the acoustics of it. We didn't get that on these two shows, but the crowd was into it, especially when we start talking about hometown favorite Kaito Nakano in a bit.
Yeah, very much so.
Then we move to a Natural Vibes versus Z-Brats 6-man tag case. Remember when we would have these every week? Natural Vibes versus Z-Brats 6-man tags?
Yeah, the world was a better place for it. I wish this would have happened on the Noah show today.
Oh gosh. And it was Jackie Funky Kamei, Jason Lee, Strong Machine J versus Shun Monte and Ishin. It was the Vuelta finale on JFK. He got destroyed post-match. I thought this was a whole lot of fun. Jackie got a little cranky this week, and I've really enjoyed Jackie Kamei with a bit of an edge.
Oh, completely. I mean, he's really starting to figure out who he is and who he can become. He's a brilliant wrestler who's been getting his ass kicked, and now he's been fighting back. And this was a match I nearly went notebook on. I went 3 3/4 on this. It's just, it's everything you would want it to be. There's specifically a great spot here. Jackie takes out Shun and Diamante, and then Jackie gets dragged to the floor, and Shun Skywalker just launches him in to the ring post. Such a violent move right there. And then a few moments later, they go into that press slam where Kamei gets dropped and gets kicked in the gut on the way down. He took an absolute beating here, but he fought back. He showed some heart against Z-Brats. This was everything it should have been. A really, really good match.
I think there's a future fascinating Bravegate match between him and Ishin.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. We've seen what he can do with his contemporary and SB Kento. I think he and Ishin is kind of that next untapped gold mine in terms of just great matches, great chemistry.
Yeah, they got a little something going on there. The semi-main event on the afternoon show, Atomico's action, as the entire trio of D-Courage, Yuki Yoshioka, Dragon Daya, and Madoka Kikuta teamed with Dragon Kid against Ultimo Dragon, Yamato, BB Hulk, and Kota Minoura. It was it was the double cork out of the 301. I had the 301 written and marked out on Dragon Daya hitting the double cork out of the 301 on Minoura, building up the night show. This was not a touch football match.
I thought this was okay. I enjoy a little bit of the big 8-man tags that we get here. I thought it was just okay. You seem to be a little bit more into it than I did.
Yamato getting away from high end and getting tossed in with Yama Hulk. I know you're kind of tired of Yamato, Kai, and Hulk, that triangle of pain, but we got something a little bit different there. It was a different element, that almost as if that whole entire 3-way storyline never happened, and then we got to see the Brainbuster to hell. And hey, you get one of those moves and you do it, and it gets gift and gets thrown around, and it's that brutal looking, I will probably move you up a 1/4 star. Just saying.
I don't mind Yamato and Hulk here, just because it feels so different than Tribe Vanguard or Team Dragon Gate or RED versus Dragon Gate or whatever other era we were living in. Yamato just feels like a new man, and I am so in love with this iteration of Yamato.
Yeah, no, I feel like we might need to dip our toe into some Ryukyu Dragon Pro Wrestling coming up soon.
Brother, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yep. The main event, actually, so after this, there was a Daya and Dragon Kid. There was a beatdown. I think I have beatdown written down there. Was there a beatdown after this match? I apologize. My handwriting is awful in my notes.
God. Yeah, well, did Shun beat him up here? Is this where Shun came out?
Yeah, this is where Shun came out, beat him up here, building up the night show. That's what I thought.
Yeah, good stuff there.
Yep. And the main event, I would dare say the match of the show in Rey de Parejas. It was the rookie tag team of Yoshiki Kato and Kaito Nagano. He is a Hakata native at 2 points versus Masaki Mochizuki Jr., the Mochizukis. Time limit draw.
I cannot believe they went to a draw here. Were you expecting this finish? Did you know this finish going into the match?
Yeah, I had to catch up with these shows, so I saw the results, so I knew.
I did not, and the longer this match went, the more I thought, surely Father Mochizuki is just going to kill these kids. There's no way they're doing a draw with Masaki Mochizuki and a pair of rookies. And then that's exactly what they did, and I couldn't have been happier. The time limit draws, with the exception of one match that we'll talk about in just a minute, the time limit draws have not bothered me. I think you and I saw today in the match that we watched right before we started recording, the time limit draws were done for a reason. That reason paid off. I'm super into it. This was just, Mike, this was marvelous pro wrestling. I mean, this was legitimately great, and I think in any other promotion, you see the press junket come out and you see tastemakers from all corners make a big deal out of this match, and you and I are just kind of screaming into an empty hallway at times, going, this is great, watch this match. But oh my God, if you haven't seen this match, watch this match.
Yeah, there's the character wrinkles here that I think might be one of those quote unquote entrance barriers to Dragon Gate, where Masaki Mochizuki, basically for a good portion of this match, made Junior beat the crap out of his friends. Like, there's no better way to put it than that case. He basically was like, Junior, you're handling stuff here. And it was awesome. It was something that's like, of course, Masaki Mochizuki wants Junior to do this. Like, the class of 2022 is a very competitive one, and he wants to be able to stake his son to stake his claim here. But there was like a level of that, and that then you guys see Junior and Nagano face off, and Nagano, with the exception of Eita, most over person in this building as he should be. That was just there are moments of this making me wince, and then you had Mochizuki tagging in and having to deal with Yoshiki Kato, which was just a lot of fun because Masaki Mochizuki, one of the 5 best wrestlers of all time, doing some nice character work going, oh, he's big, and having to deal with that. So yeah, no, 4 1/4. This was just tremendous stuff.
I don't think it can be understated that a man 3 months into his career, a man 6 months into his career, and a man 8 months into his career headlined a Dragon Gate show in what I would call an A-town. This is one of the key Dragon Gate markets. This is a big deal in Fukuoka, and they put 3 literal rookies in the main event. I went 4.5 stars on this, and for as good as the rookies were, I do think we have to shed a little light on Masaki Mochizuki, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. You were the one in February of 2018. You had the honors, because of my busy schedule at the time, of writing the review for the February Cork and Hall show that dealt with Mochizuki versus KZ in the infamous Masaki Mochizuki works the stomach match. And we kind of got the second iteration of that here, with Masaki Mochizuki working the gut of Kaito Nagano, putting an iron claw on the midsection of Kaito Nagano towards the finishing stretch, backing him into the corner and hitting a trio of back spin kicks into the gut of Kaito Nagano. All of the great Masaki Mochizuki performances, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of great matches, boy, this one deserves a spot in the pantheon. This is one that I will remember. A brilliant performance from all four men, but the work that Mochizuki did here sets him apart from not only just all of the other wrestlers in the world, but all of the other great wrestlers. This was a uniquely Masaki Mochizuki match.
There is no one in pro wrestling who works the stomach like Masaki Mochizuki. I feel like I've established that as canon. I forgot that I wrote that review, okay? So I was afraid you were going to point out bad quotations I did.
No. There's a few reviews. I mean, since 2015, I feel like I reviewed about 95% of the Cork and Hall shows, and then the ones you review have some really big historical connotations to it. I was like, oh, I wanted to write about that. Why am I busy this week?
I mean, it's always something I'm like, oh God, how do I write about Masato Yoshino's retirement? How?
Oh boy, was I happy to hand that one off. I said, brother, I'll take the Shun and KZ match. You summarize Masato Yoshino's career. I don't want to do that. I did that already. It was hard.
It's a good time, but it's also a very stressful time.
I had to DM Larry Dallas and ask for his thoughts on Masato Yoshino. I don't want to go through this again.
The evening show was the Super No Vacancy sellout that opened with JFK and Jason Lee, the Kung Fu Masters, versus Mino Hulk. Kung Fu Masters were at 1 point, Gold Class were at 4. Jason ducked a first flash into a folding crucifix pen. Case, this was my note that I wrote down here that I feel like encapsulates this match perfectly. Good fun.
Absolutely. I mean, 3.5 stars, just everything you want from an opener.
Jason is just loving chin checks lately. He wants to make sure that you're not going to go down when you get hit in the button. And some people may look at that as being mean. I look at that as a public service. You want to make sure you have a strong jaw, and Jason Lee is out there testing that. And it just was just an absolute blast where they just start throwing bombs. This was a bomb match. I went 3 3/4, guys.
I'm really ready for Jason to have a Pac-esque Bravegate run. And I know that's a lofty expectation to put on somebody, but he's good enough. I mean, I use that comparison for a reason. He's so good, and I very rarely feel this way in Dragongate, that people are underutilized because people fluctuate up and down the card. The cycle down thing that I sometimes think it's overstated in Dragongate. There's top stars and there's not, but I think they could do so much more with Jason Lee. And he's in one of the best tag teams in the world. He's killing it in this tournament. I just want the world to pay attention to how good this guy is. It's 3 years now of me going, he's the best junior in the world. He's the best junior in the world. I watch these Hiromu matches. Hiromu's good. Hiromu's not this good anymore. And that's just because his body gave up on him. Jason Lee, without a doubt, to me, best junior heavyweight in the world, could walk on a Dynamite tomorrow and fit right in. Would, God forbid, worst possible timeline, he's in NXT. He's immediately the best wrestler on that roster. He's best New Japan junior there would be, best Noah junior there would be, best All Japan junior there would be. Mike, he's just such a goddamn good wrestler.
And he keeps on adding new elements. And he's changed the elements he's been doing in this tournament as well. Going and in the rookie tag, going for the arm, and then with all that, it's just such a good time to see him develop and adding these edges to him. First, he's trying to take off Yoshiki Kato's arm. We'll talk about someone else who tried that in the next match. But now it's just he has one of the best forearms in wrestling. This is the one, again, Segunda Keita should look at the chin checks that him and Minoru were throwing at each other in this evening show on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, go watch it.
Speaking of people wanting to take arms, Diamante stole Jason Lee's idea in his match against Yoshiki Kato. He won with the arm breaker. And Case, this is the real monkey's paws moment. I wanted a tall boys league coming out of this match because Fukuoka, they like the stalling big boy suplexes.
Absolutely. Now, yes, go ahead. Speak your piece on this match, then I'll get to my point.
I just thoroughly enjoyed the idea that everyone's idea to take out Kato is, well, you got to take his arm out. And that's what Diamante focused on this thing. It's well, it worked for Jason. I'm going to try it, see if it works for me. Oh, wait, I won this match.
I really want to know what the plans were going to be going forward. This seemed like a match that was setting the table for something big. And again, we don't know the extent of Diamante's injury as of the time we're recording this, but it can't be good. And it seemed like there was going to be more to this because Kato kind of got his ass kicked in this match.
It was the most that Kato has been beaten up so far.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, kind of a dominant one-sided match, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, it was fun though. I was 3 1/4. I thought it was a blast.
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit lower, but I just enjoyed the structure of the match.
The next match was a non-tournament match with hometown legend Kaito Nakano teaming with Kagetora versus Eita and Yamato. Yamato won with a spinning Galleria that murdered Nagano. This was my favorite match on the showcase. I loved it. And part of that is the spike that happened. I thought that was really fun. And we had the fact that Kagetora had to come out to Kaito Nakano's theme. And
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Cut a look straight into the hard cam of what am I doing here? You could read it in his eyes.
Shouldn't Kagetora just be getting beaten up by Bulk Orchestra? Doesn't that seem like it's his future?
Yeah, what's the team with Ito and Kadama, like Jan's family? He should join that.
Yeah, that's a bunch of faceless Japanese wrestlers. That's perfect for Kagetora.
I like Ito.
The guys are go, oh yeah, them. Yeah, no, they're good. They're good. I can definitely pick them out of a lineup.
Yeah. No, that's true. But Case, the thing I loved about this, not only did we get new era Yamato, he was rudoing it up, and Eita was gleeful about Yamato, like gladly like trying to just make Nagano's life a living hell.
This was a ton of fun. I mean, this was one of those deals where you see Yamato and Eita in the same ring, and there's a sense of star power there, and then you see Nagano step right up to them, and you go, "Oh my, what? This kid is 5'1". How is he stepping up to Yamato and Eita with such confidence?" And yet here he is doing the damn thing. A really fun, what I would call TV style of match.
Oh yeah, this is something that as I have this never-ending episode of Dark On Case. Tony Nese and Trent Brett are having a match, so the Premier Athlete brand are exploding in 2023. Just keeping you abreast of that. This feels like a match that like it went, I think, like 10 minutes. I don't have the match run times in front of me right now, and it was like a fascinating thing of how long Nagano could stay alive around two of the pillars of Dragongate, and him trying to just starting off the match of had to be close to a dozen no soul drop kicks by Yamato. As soon as that happened, I knew we were in for it. I was 4 1/4 on it. I adored it.
I am not that high, but I also can't begrudge you for being that high.
Just was a blast. I just adored it. Rey de Parejas returned for the next match. It was JNF Strong Machine Army at 1 point, Ben Rita at 0. This was like really the last chance that Ben Rita had a chance to get any points in this damn thing. Well, Machine Suplex holding like 4 minutes. It was what we expected it to be, and it was what we expect. And I appreciate the fact that Ben's still going. Minarita will handle it at 0-3.
Yeah. This was I got nothing else to add on this.
The original M2K faced off against Ultimo, Ginki, Horiguchi, and Ho-Ho Lun. Of course, original M2K. Masaki Mochizuki, Susumu Mochizuki, and Yasushi Kanda. Finley rolled with the Geku Judo elbow on Ginki to win. Ultimo was very funny at the end here, guys. I just want to point out here. Did not try to go in to break up the pin. He saw Junior coming around the corner. He ran and punt kicked him from the apron. It was great.
Yeah, another fine match. This one very much more touch football than the afternoon show, but not painful by any means.
Speaking of painful, Yoshioka and Kikuta versus Hyo and Ishin went to a time limit draw, and this is universally every person I've talked to who has seen these shows have. This is the match where everyone points out, you think they're kind of doing the time limit draws too much.
I don't mind the time limit draws. I just hated this match. I thought this match served no purpose. I thought I said this earlier. I'll repeat myself here. It was a Hyo match that didn't land, and that is a very dangerous combination. This was slow and deliberate, had a ton of cheating, had a certain amount of character work to it, and it just didn't work for me at all. And thus, I had no interest in it.
Yeah, I was a little higher, but this was super, super slow. And Ishin and Kikuta have something going on here. Closing stretch where Ishin tried to basically contain Kikuta and Yoshioka so Hyo would not get pinned was interesting, but this was not a strong match. This was probably the weakest match of the tournament, to be fair.
This is where I started to turn against the tournament as a whole because of this match, because as I was going through the first Fukuoka show, which I just thought was a ton of fun, over-delivered, main event was phenomenal. I'm thinking, man, this Rey de Parejas, the wrestling media is missing something by not covering this tournament. And then you get into this show, and Diamante versus Kato was fine. It served a purpose. And I thought, the Eita and Yamato tag was fun. Strong Machine J, that match didn't really do anything for me. You got the touch football match. And then you get into this, and it just seemed like all of the 3 weeks of goodwill that had been built up vanished with this match. And maybe I'm just being hard on these guys, but I've talked about my heel problem. He's going to have to show me that he can hang in the ring with these guys, or else he's just this generation's Gamma. And to some people, that serves a very valuable spot on the roster. But I watch this promotion for the stories as much as I do the good matches, and I need him to be able to have good matches. So this was a giant red flag for me. I thought this was the weakest match of the tournament, and I hope he can turn it around. He's going to have 2 big opportunities to do so. If he stinks up the joint versus Jason and Jackie, we are going to have really big issues next week.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like, that's a match that should excel given how Kung Fu Masters have been lately. So we might need to have a talk about Hyo next week, another talk about him. The main event for the day-night doubleheader at Across Fukuoka was the double dragon team, Dragongate and Dragon Dia, were at 2 points versus Shun Kai, who were at 4. A brutal knee salt on Dia to win the match. I was 4 1/4 case. I thought that they put a real shift in. I still think I like the Nagano tag a little bit more on this show, but I get people liking the main event much more than it as well.
I didn't quite go notebook on this, which is, given the format involved, a slight disappointment. I'm at 3 3/4. It's a very good match. To me, it wasn't even close to being on the same level as the main event for the first show. This was just an okay match for a lot of the match, and then it really turned the corners around the time of that Ultra Rana from Dragon Dia's shoulders. I think I was really thrown off by 20 minutes of deliberate Zebrats heel work into a match. This goes 14:05, and probably the first 7 minutes of this just felt like a continuation from the prior match. This was a rare instance of a Dragongate show that I thought was paced really poorly.
It was something that, at least for me in this match, the thing that that really kind of took me aback was the fact that, like, there were certain spots in this match that got so over, that were much more over than I expected, like the near fall for the reptilian on Shun. Like, the crowd completely bit in to Dia getting a fall on the Dreamgate champion, which would have been fascinating with that. And then Shun did one piece of character work that, this did not determine my star rating, but it did give me give me a smiley feeling. Shun finding the Dia mask and just throwing it across Fukuoka popped me.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of good stuff here. It was just, I think if I went back and rewatched this, I would like it a lot more than I did. It was just a match that fell at the wrong time and place. I just got through this very frustrating heel match, and then Shun and Kai come out, and even if it's not the same pacing, it was too much of a similar tone for me at first, and I was not into that whatsoever. But by the end of it, Dragon Dia had an excellent performance here. His big moves really hit. Shun is I don't know. I don't know how you can watch Shun Skywalker and not think he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. It really blows my mind, and this is across far and wide of the wrestling media, people that have an eye on Dragongate that go, yeah, he's good, yeah, he's fine, he's doing whatever, and just aren't completely enamored with this guy's work, because the people that are plugged in our Discord, it's a largely universal opinion that Shun is the guy. He is the wrestler in this promotion that people need to have their eyes on. I thought he was just marvelous here. I enjoyed the finish. Were you bothered at all by Dragon Dai getting pinned with this move and not the SSW?
No, because they've been defining secondary finishers all tournament long. And remember when Shun at Korakuen landed square on Yoshida's stomach with a knee assault?
Yes, I do.
He's defining secondary finishers right now, as he should as a Dreamgate champion, like reminding people he has the knee assault. You know what move we haven't seen out of Shun for a long time, at least since he's been heel?
What's that?
Ashla.
Yeah, it's a good looking move, isn't it? That's I don't know how you would describe it, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah, the Falcon Arrow variant, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm okay with that. I mean, like, we had Jason doing stuff like this. Like, people are doing other things. I mean, we'll talk about this in Kokurikito about the Cristo case in the next show. But before that, any last thoughts on Across Fukuoka?
I really liked the first show. I thought the second show was just okay.
I think that's a fair read of it. I think that seeing Nagano in front of his hometown in a cheering crowd was really something fun to see across both nights. And, rookie tag versus Mochizuki that's up there. That at the end of the tournament, probably going to be a top 3 match of the tournament, if not ending up at number 1, I would say.
What's your top 3 right now?
Well, my number 1 right now is a match we'll talk about in a little bit. Kung Fu Masters versus Courage Ass. And then I think it's rookie tag might be number 2 as I'm flipping through my notebook very quickly. Yeah, I would say I did adore at the Korakuen Minoru and Hulk. I was not as high on it as you, but Double Dragon versus Doyama, I think, is my number 2. Then probably rookie tag versus Mochizuki's.
If I was going to make a top 3 right now, number 1, Hulk and Minoru versus Kikuta and Yoshioka. Like you said, I'm higher on that than you are. Number 2, Mochizuki's versus Nagano and Kato. And then number 3 would be this match, Jason Lee and Jacky Funky Kamei versus Madoka Kikuta and Yuki Yoshioka from February 21st.
Yep, I think that's a pretty fair top 3. They did have Kokorito before that. It was, I probably am butchering it, 222 or 220. It was the night after. Double Dragon versus Strong Machine Army. This was the match that Dragon Kid won with the Cristo on F.
Yeah, look, there were, 2 tournament matches on this show?
Yes.
Yeah, they were both fine. I don't have a ton of thoughts here.
Yeah, and then the other one, the Mochizuki's versus Hulk and Minoru in Grenache on Junior. I was 3 3/4 on it. It was fun to see Junior and Mochizuki deal with the fact that Mochizuki could not get in to break up falls, which I thought was kind of fascinating. But the star of YouTube from Kagoshima from today was this JFK versus Yoshioka and Kikuta match where Jason won with a crucifix hold with 30 seconds left on the clock. Molten crowd. In case we've talked about how Kamei and Kikuta have weird chemistry. Sometimes it's really bad, sometimes it's good. This was probably the best matchup I've seen of those two, I would say, since Kikuta's return.
Yeah, I can't imagine a better scenario. I mean, this is a 4.5-star match that took place in a bunker in front of 230 people. This was one of those deals. You put this in Korakuen, you put this in Osaka, you put this in a Kobe setting. We're talking about a match that would surely finish in not only our Dragongate top 10s of the year, but probably our Universal top 10s of the year. Brilliant match. And it goes back to everything I said about Jason earlier. It goes back to everything I've said about Jacky. Really finding his edge, succeeding as an underdog, but also fighting back, which is such a tough thing to do. And he's doing it so well. And then this D-Courage team, I mean, to me, Madoka Kikuta he could do no wrong right now. He is on fire in a way that I think few wrestlers ever are. 4.5-star match for me. The finish, Mike, got me to get up off my couch and audibly yell because I thought surely we're going to a time limit draw. This match has been going on a long time. I'm looking at the YouTube bar. I see we got time left in this video. Surely we're going to a time limit draw. And when Jason scored that pinfall, it stunned the shit out of me. It worked. I support all the time limit draws because it got us to this point. Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, and the only downside about it is that you would wish that this time limit draw happened in front, or this near time limit draw happened in front of a bigger crowd on the network and not on YouTube. But it's just fantastic stuff. It is at this point probably, I completely blanked on what my top 3 were. No, this is my match of the tournament. What am I saying? So it's something where we get to see how good Jason can be, how great Kamei has been. And then you get like little wrinkles. Like, I think this is the first time that Strong Machine J has been at ringside supporting Kung Fu Masters during the tournament. Case, did you notice that?
I know. I did notice that because I thought, what's Strong Machine J doing out there? And then I remembered he was in Natural Vibes.
Right. Yeah. No, that was a thing that kind of stuck out with that.
It would have been interesting had this match taken place in Kobe, the last day of block play, with the same finish. Because now, like, I don't know what this does to time limit draws going forward. I'm going to be really curious to see if we get any more, because this paid off the time limit draw story in a really effective way. I would have liked to have seen this on the last night of the tournament in front of that Kobe crowd. I think the reaction was huge, and I think the reaction would have been even bigger had they milked it for 4 more days.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that. And that was Rey de Parejas for this week. As Case ran down earlier in the show, they have a show in Aichi and Tokai, that is Dragon Kids Homecoming, and then one show in Tsushima before finishing up at the Kobe Art Center, their annual return there to end out the block play here in Rey de Parejas. It'll be interesting to see, because I'm looking at the show for Tokai that's going to be happening in 2 days, and Minorita versus Diamante was supposed to be match 3 there. That's
right. Yeah, I would assume we get Minorita versus Fuda or something now.
Yeah. Interesting show since it's Dragon Kids Homecoming. He is in the main event. It is the 3 generations of dragons versus original M2K there. That's going to be like an hour, 10-minute YouTube they're going to have to upload.
That's a good point. Everyone, like, I'm trying to think, the Shoya Sato finale last year, that was over an hour. There's a few of those YouTube uploads that eclipse an hour, and that certainly seems like it would be one of them.
Yeah, that's going to be up there for that. The rest of the show, it's not going to make tape. Eita teaming of Ho-Ho versus Cyber Kong and Punch Tomonaga. That's a real cursed match for me.
That will not be making tape.
No, not at all. From Tsushima, you've mentioned the Rey de Parejas match. Other stuff on the show, only 5 matches on the show here. Original M2K versus Z-Brats, Eita and Ginki versus Yoshida and Punch, Mochizuki Jr. versus Sachi Hoko Boy. I hope that makes tape. That's fascinating.
That's a fun one.
Yep. And then we don't have a card for the Art Center, and I imagine these cards will be shooken up because of the assumed Diamante injury. Case, I thought this was going to be like a 2-hour show, but it's not the case. Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, I really recommend people watch the Mochizukis versus Nagano and Kato from Fukuoka, the main event of the afternoon show, and then fire up YouTube. No Dragongate Network subscription required. Go watch Jason and Jacky versus Kikuta and Yoshioka. It is so worth your time.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for this week on Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back next week to end block play and then look ahead to the crazy start of March. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. I'm at Fujiheya. Case is at _in your case. Thanks for listening to Open Voice Gate. We'll be back with you next week. Take care.